Alright, so this audio recording is not going to be up on YouTube until a day or so after Zohar has received his death sentence, as our laws in this country allow for. I'm going to talk about the death penalty, and I'm going to talk about what choices that we're really making. I perceive that there are a lot of comments that are being made about this circumstance that are wrapped up in political speak, that people not knowing they're doing this pretty much are brainwashed into accepting a death penalty for Zohar Tsarnaev. So I'm going to talk about this logically, just in a very basic way, and pretty much challenge people to face up to what they're really saying. And if they can stomach, and I imagine there will be, and there may be more people than not that can actually stomach thinking about what's really happening here. Then it's clear in the minds of the people that make that judgment that the death penalty is justified. I'm going to start by asking, what is accomplished by punishing or describing what the goals would be of prosecution and the criminal justice system in general. It's in a very general sense. So category 1 would be prevention. So, this is, a rational goal of having a criminal justice system in place is to prevent crimes from reoccurring, having reoffenders or widespread offenses of a certain crime. Prevention is one goal. The next goal would be protection, by, taking someone who likes to stick pressure cookers loaded with shrapnel in large crowds, once it isn't safe to let him roam about and have the ability to buy more pressure cookers, we'll probably have a better chance of preventing that from happening again if, of course, we don't allow him to put himself in that circumstance. It's prevention. There could be restitution, but in this case, the dead aren't going to rise again, and people that have lost their limbs are not going to see them come back, unfortunately. The damage is permanent. And the fourth actual goal would be revenge. And the question people should ask themselves before they decide whether they agree with Zohar being killed or not is whether they believe getting revenge upon Zohar is justified. If you do, then you should be happy. If you don't, and that putting it under, framing it that way rather than getting justice for the victims or some other cliche comment, it's really empty when you examine the words, then you should be upset. Because that's all it does. Killing him, all it does is it doesn't prevent him from committing the crime in the future. What would prevent him from committing the crime in the future is his permanent incarceration. In fact, the damage is already done. Killing him doesn't protect anybody. He's already done his damage, once again. Having him behind bars would also protect the public from him being able to detonate those bombs. Restitution, killing him doesn't bring back anybody's legs or cause someone to rise from the dead. So we're left with revenge. Now, of course, not everybody's, religious. I'm not particularly religious myself, even though I am against the death penalty. But there's some people that actually believe they want to adhere to certain beliefs that are ascribed to, including Jesus said, instead of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, that if your neighbor slaps you, turn and offer him the other cheek. Now, why does he say that? We have forgotten about this. So any person that's claiming to be a Christian that says they believed that Zohar should die, in this case, is not acting as a Christian. They've forgotten. Of course, most Christians know that the reason why there's value in being forgiven is that they do make mistakes. So there's no permanent condemnation with that. That's just a comment. How did you, as the individual you are, religious and Christian, in this case, forget that teaching of Jesus? Now, I don't ascribe to that. That isn't good enough for me. Some guy 4,000 years ago said, I'm supposed to do something. It doesn't make it good enough for me to do unless it actually makes sense. To my mind, it does make sense because there are people that are going to be watching this. And there are some people that are of a reasonably irrational mind that are going to say that what Zohar Tsarnaev did was a holy act. I know we find it disgusting. It doesn't matter if we find it disgusting. It doesn't matter if we found our belief that Osama bin Laden's beliefs were disgusting didn't stop him from having 20 of his followers fly planes into the World Trade Center. There still was some kind of diplomatic opportunity, perhaps, short of being blackmailed, or approach that could be made to prevent things like that from happening. Just by our actions and the things that we say may or may not influence other people from other countries to decide whether they believe us to be worthy targets. But if we step into the looking glass and we go into the world and we realize that their writings do say that they are to kill the infidels far and wide in foreign lands, and basically Islam does have instructions for holy war in lands yet to be conquered by Muslims. And that includes random acts of violence that we've seen repeat itself time and time again. So no way am I a pro-Islamic individual. In fact, being consistently pro-life, I am very much against the Muslim faith. Inasmuch that it endorses a position by which the long-term belief and plans for the Islamic faith is the conquest of other peoples. Ask Anjem Chowdhury and he'll confirm these beliefs. Confirm that those beliefs are held by the Muslims. So no, by no means am I pro-Islamic by saying that Zohar's life should be spared. I believe that I'd be logically inconsistent for me to say that, well, I have the authority to decide who else gets to kill people. Or I have the authority to say that another individual is not allowed to kill people. Or to put it this way, it's a better way to put it. Our society has said, rightly so, that Zohar Tsarnaev doesn't have the right to kill people whenever he feels like it. Okay. But why is Zohar Tsarnaev special? Why aren't we all held to the same standard that Zohar Tsarnaev is held? And that is, the question is, do we as people, should we kill other people? If you're pro-life, the answer is no. And I'm not talking about abortion clinics. If you're the kind of individual that values life, or your mores are centered around the value of life, the answer is no. It's simple. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, of course I am. You say to yourself, okay, well then if you are, why do you think you have suddenly the moral authority for an exception? Well, we can kill that one over there. But besides that, we're not going to kill everybody else. But for this one, we're going to kill him. Because we're going to do it for justice. We're going to get justice for the victims. And let's just ask that question. If you were to sit down a victim one random day 2 years before the bombing and say, hi, just wanted to know if you would find this a good option for you. I'll kill that guy over there for you, but it's going to cost your leg. Is that a fair trade? Is that a just trade for you? They'd say no. They would say no. Or if you were to say, well, that's what it is. So justice is not going to be accomplished, is the point. For the man that lost his leg, or the people that lost their lives, or whoever else was injured, those body parts are not going to come back. Because we killed Zohar. He doesn't have enough body parts to go around, even if we were going to attempt to reattach them. I mean, that's the only closest thing you can get to restitution. It is quite disgusting. But we are talking about theory here. We're not talking about empty words. And it is empty. We get justice. You're not getting justice for the victims by killing them. It doesn't get justice for them. Justice for them would be to have their limbs back. That's impossible. Now, when it comes to other people looking at what we say now, we have the police chief saying, we're not going to have him come to Boston and blow up bombs on our marathon. Well, he already did. You can't undo that. The point is that you cannot undo that. You think, well, and we're going to show them. We're going to show these people they can't come to Boston, and so they're going to die. Well, the mistake with that is to ascribe rational thought processes to people who do irrational things. It's absolutely irrational for anybody to do the kind of human damage and inflict the carnage they did at that bombing. Absolutely. Completely irrational. So what would we expect? At all. People that are irrational to decide, I'm not going to fly my plane into the World Trade Center because if I serve the death penalty awaits me. Now that is a bit unfair. For the Boston situation, of course, these people survived. But at the end of the day, what you have to understand is that in this particular religion, martyrdom is a holy act. Or at least it's considered as such. The rational adherence to belief, whether it be religion, is what motivated an individual and his brother to inflict pointless injury upon people that are completely contrary to what I have a value for, and that's human life. Why would we do more of that? Well, you're letting him off. How? I mean, revenge is one thing. But in these kind of crimes, there's no lesson to be learned. He's not going to learn that lesson. He never will learn that lesson. That's when people say, well, we should actually not kill him, but just torture him for a very long time. Maybe do experiments on him. I've seen YouTube videos going in this direction. Well, that's once again, that's revenge. So if that's going to be our moral level, that's pretty low. How can we tell ourselves that we're morally qualified to kill other people? In fact, it's illogical. Are we morally qualified to kill killers? By our act of killing other killers, does that maintain our moral qualification? Or might other people find our act of killing another killer who has done, in their eyes, a holy act, might they find some moral justification for doing that? And that's where we get back to Jesus' commandment to turn the other cheek. I think it's a very sound commandment. It's a very sound commandment to follow. We do that by choice. In this situation, if we would turn the other cheek and just keep him in prison, no small sect of delusional and religious people from some far place in the world could justify their planning large-scale mass murder against American citizens based upon the execution of this young man. The federal government has actually stepped out of its normal bounds to supersede Massachusetts law to make sure this person was eligible to be killed. In some cases, being the tough guy and showing other people that we are the tough guy, or that we are going to extract the eye for the eye, for the tooth, what that ends up meaning is that our enemies are just as convinced that they're just as tough as we are. They're just as convinced that they're going to be victorious, and they're just as likely to continue doing terrorist acts. So yeah. If we killed this young man, we give other people an excuse to attack us. Because that's their worldview. That is their worldview. The truth of the matter is, I think the religion's a big problem, and the Muslim religion is the worst. But that's for another day. So those are my arguments as to why we shouldn't kill Zohar. Unless, of course, you think we should live in a society in which revenge should be the cardinal rule and turn the other cheek an act of nonsense. And when it comes to things that are such high stake as other people's lives, rather than something as small as driving over your neighbor's grass in revenge for his doing so the other day, rational people quickly realize they don't want to get into those kind of chicken matches, especially when it comes to seeing how many people in revenge could be killed from one another. And that's pretty much what we've allowed ourselves to get into, and the world has now become a mess. If you allow things to escalate, evil is given room in this world to continue. Out of the ashes of our revengeful Iraq invasion, because now we can only say that's all it was. There weren't any weapons of mass destruction. We just wanted to get something back. Show them we weren't going to be pushed around. We're going to invade some country. We're going to do some kind of war for that kind of damage. We thought to ourselves. We stood around for a while and, conquered a country, but there was this cancerous underground that didn't go away, and as soon as we left, it resurged, and now it calls itself ISIS. That's a big problem. We don't need this kind of thing in the world. We don't need to allow or cause conflicts to escalate. And I actually am afraid that there may be some kind of retaliation for this young man's execution. But that's not the only reason. I mean, you just don't want to live in a society where people are actually making sure they get revenge all the time. You can't operate. There has to be faith and goodwill in a society for people to continue and operate and function. You want to spend most of your time fulfilling your role in society that allows it to function as a civilized place. Doing your job, whatever that may be. You, the grocer, can have food to sell rather than spending some of your time, instead of selecting the best vegetables, figuring out how you're going to flatten your neighbor's tire. And this is all it really is about. So, I say we should have grown up and shown ourselves to be worthy of imprisoning people that kill people for no reason. Now, I don't know why I have to keep adding that. Really, the question is, are we worthy of imprisoning people? As a society, are we worthy to imprison people that kill other people and prevent them from killing other people? We got to start somewhere, and that's the better way to put it. We have to start somewhere, and we might as well start right now. Decide that we're not the kind of society that wants death to continue, that takes offensive action towards causing death towards others. If we can be a society that does not do that, then yes, we are worthy to jail someone that is randomly killed or that just kills people for no reason. We believe we have a reason to kill Zohar because he killed other people. But that really isn't a reason. That's my point. To be worthy of punishing other people for killing other people, we have to be free of that offense ourselves for it really to be true. Not just in words, but in actual deeds. Alright, so that's my opinion. And I'm going to stick to it.